25-year-old Mo Wilson was on her way to becoming a champion gravel bike racer. After only a few years competing, she was showing herself to be a true force to be reckoned with. That was, until she was found gunned down in an apartment in Austin in 2022. When investigators closed in on the killer, they went on the run and had authorities chasing them all the way to Costa Rica. This is Monsters. Kaitlin Armstrong was born on November 21, 1987 in Livonia, Michigan. She was athletic in high school and participated in track and field, volleyball, and basketball. After graduating from high school, she attended the local community college before transferring to Eastern Michigan University. There aren't a lot of details about her past, but at some point she moved to Austin, Texas, and was working as a yoga instructor and a licensed realtor. Some said she purchased and flipped houses as well. Colin Strickland was born on November 7, 1987 in Johnson City, Texas. He didn't grow up wanting to race bicycles. In high school, he got a bike simply for transportation. After that, he started helping his friends find bikes, fix them up, and modify them. He began racing in 2010 in an alley cat race in Austin and went on to compete in a variety of cycling races including street and gravel. He would eventually become known as the world's fastest man on a gravel bicycle. Colin started working on his own to find sponsorships and eventually made more money riding than he did from his day job. He eventually got so busy that he needed a manager, and that's where Kaitlin Armstrong stepped in to help out. Colin and Kaitlin met on a dating app in October of 2019. By January of 2020, they were living together. That was because of a major snowstorm that hit Austin that winter and flooded Kaitlin's apartment. Colin let his girlfriend move in while her apartment was out of commission, but she just never moved back out. At that time, it seemed as though Colin wasn't as interested in living together, and it was the beginning of some more obsessive behavior on Kaitlin's part. During a later testimony, Colin stated, quote, "I was not in favor of living together, but she needed a place to live urgently." Colin had purchased a rundown house in the area as an investment property. He had fixed it up, and eventually Colin and Kaitlin moved into it and ran his business from there. He had his cycling business, but also he had a business where he fixed up trailers and campers. Kaitlin took care of the sponsorships, the finances, and even his social media. Though the businesses were doing well, their relationship wasn't. They would regularly split up and even date other people while still living together. That was another situation where it seemed that Colin wasn't in love with Kaitlin as much as she was in him. She told friends that she only dated other men to make Colin jealous, which apparently didn't work. Having access to his social media for the business also meant she was able to spy on other aspects of his life, such as his interactions with other women. Whether or not the communications were romantic or just friendly, Kaitlin was extremely jealous. Anna Mariah Wilson, who went by Mo, was born on May 18, 1996 in Littleton, New Hampshire. Her parents were Eric and Karen Wilson, and she had a brother named Matthew. Her family moved to Kirby, Vermont when she was young, where she excelled at outdoor sports. In 2013, Mo ranked third in the U.S. Junior National Championship downhill event. At Dartmouth College, she competed on the alpine ski team. She graduated from Dartmouth with a bachelor's degree in engineering in 2019. Instead of continuing on in the engineering field, Mo decided to pursue a career in bike racing. She loved cycling so much that she even got a job working for Specialized, a high-end bicycle manufacturer. At the end of April 2022, Mo had made the decision to leave her job and begin cycling full-time. That decision had come after being mentored by Colin Strickland. The two had met at an event in Utah in September of 2021. He immediately noticed that she had immense talent and wanted to help her reach her goals. He was interested in becoming more of a professional mentor, helping cyclists find sponsors and coaching young talent to become champions. That worked well for Mo because she wanted to become a person who could inspire other people and be a role model in the sport. In the fall of 2021, Colin had competed in a race in Benton, Arkansas, and of course, his girlfriend and manager Kaitlin went with him. While there, Colin went on a mountain bike ride with some other cyclists, one of whom was Mo. More importantly, one person who wasn't invited on the ride was Kaitlin. Now, Colin didn't plan the ride without his girlfriend for any other reason than she just wasn't an experienced rider. She was fit and active and could ride a bike well, but Colin was going with very advanced level pros and didn't think Kaitlin would do well. Kaitlin was furious, and after getting into it with Colin, he once again ended the relationship. A few days later, Mo was in Austin where she ran into Colin. Over the next week, the two had an intimate relationship, but Colin claimed that it ended when Mo left the city. They remained friends and continued to run in the same gravel racing circles, seeing each other from time to time at racing events or places the racers would regularly hang out. Once news of the relationship got back to Kaitlin, she spiraled out of control. She texted and called Colin, upset about his relationship with Mo. Colin explained that they had broken up and that his new relationships were none of her business. Colin and Kaitlin were still living together, and Colin had asked Kaitlin to move out. She had purchased a property to renovate and it wasn't ready to move into yet. He said during his testimony, quote, "It was hard to evict her before her residence was complete." Of course, as a grown adult, he should have pushed her harder to find a temporary residence during that time. But it seems like Colin had a hard time being the bad guy, so they continued living together and eventually, like most tumultuous relationships, they got back together once again. During that time, Kaitlin told Colin that she was concerned for her own safety and wanted a gun. There was apparently a growing homeless population in the area, and she was increasingly afraid of being involved in a road rage incident. On top of that, she told Colin she was getting harassed by men when she was out on solo bike rides. So, in December of 2021, the couple rode their bikes to McBride's Guns right there in Austin, and Colin purchased two Sig Sauer P365 9mm semi-automatic pistols. He gave one of them to Kaitlin. Now, whether any of Kaitlin's paranoia was legitimate or she just said that in order to get Colin to buy her a gun is up for debate, but I don't think I'm the only person who thinks the latter is true. It's also important to note that Colin eventually went back to McBride's and exchanged his Sig Sauer for a 9mm Springfield. Over the next few months, Colin and Mo continued to see each other at race events and communicate with each other. Colin would later say that the two were only friends, but their interactions made it seem like there was more. In January of 2022, Colin and Kaitlin were at a gathering at the Meteor Cafe in Bentonville, Arkansas to hang out with other cyclists after a race. While there, Mo arrived, and despite Colin saying they were friends, he didn't talk to her and even avoided eye contact. After that, Mo sent Colin a text message that read, quote, "So, I would like to talk to you at some point. I had originally texted you on Friday, but it appears my texts aren't going through again. This weekend was strange for me, and I just want to know what's going on. If you just want to be friends, seems to be the case, then that's cool, but I'd like to talk about it because honestly my mind has been going in circles and I don't know what to think." Colin's behavior at the gathering also threw up some red flags for Kaitlin as well. If nothing was going on between her boyfriend and Mo, why was he purposefully avoiding her and acting strange? It only made Kaitlin more insecure about the situation, and she used her access to Colin's personal accounts to keep an eye on things. That was why Mo had said that her texts weren't going through again. That was because Kaitlin was intercepting them. On May 11th, 2022, Mo was staying at a friend's apartment in Austin, Texas, in preparation to compete in the Gravel Locos race in Hico, about 2 hours north. When Colin learned that she was in town, he suggested that they get together. They made plans, and Colin did not tell Kaitlin about his date. He said that he had errands to run. That evening, Colin picked up Mo at just before 6 p.m. and the two went swimming at a local pool, then had dinner. The electronic keypad at the apartment registered that Mo unlocked the door at 8:36 p.m. At the exact same time, Colin sent a text message to Kaitlin saying he was on his way home, though he lied about where he had been. He told Kaitlin that he had dropped off some flowers to a friend. It seemed that he didn't want Kaitlin to know he had been with Mo, but she already knew. Somehow, Colin didn't think about the fact that Kaitlin had access to all of his accounts. She could see all of his social media and cell phone activity, so not only did she know exactly what he was doing, she had the address of the apartment where Mo was staying because, well, Mo had texted it to Colin. A witness had seen Kaitlin's black Jeep Grand Cherokee driving around the block near the apartment 10 minutes prior, and a later investigation would show the same Jeep driving by the restaurant where Colin and Mo were eating earlier that evening. What Colin didn't know was that, while he was enjoying his time with Mo, his girlfriend was following them and then staking out the apartment where Mo was staying. Not long after Mo was dropped off at the apartment, Kaitlin showed up and shot Mo 3 times. A neighbor's Ring door camera caught the audio of the attack. In the audio, you can hear Mo scream and then you hear 2 shots. Those were to Mo's head. Then you hear a 3rd shot, where Kaitlin specifically shot Mo in the heart. Mo's friend, Caitlin Cash, lived in an apartment above a detached garage, and her landlord lived in the main house. He said he'd been in the garage between 8:30 and 9:30, and at some point he heard someone run down the stairs out of the apartment. From underneath the partially opened garage door, he could see a bicycle ride off in the alley behind the property. That would later turn out to be Mo's bike that was found in some bushes not far away. Colin sent Kaitlin another text at 9:21 p.m. after he had gotten home, and he said she pulled up in her Jeep sometime after that. Colin would later say that when Kaitlin arrived home, she seemed really happy and even initiated sex with him, something that's quite disturbing when you think about what Kaitlin had just done. Caitlin Cash arrived home just before 10 p.m. and found Mo laying on the floor covered in blood. She called 911 and performed CPR, but the young racer was pronounced dead at the scene. During the investigation, 3 shell casings from 9mm Jag rounds were found. When a neighbor's surveillance footage was viewed, investigators saw the same black Jeep with a bike rack drive by multiple times. Of course, the first suspect was Colin Strickland, as he was the last person Mo was with and they had had an intimate relationship. When detectives arrived at Colin's house, he was out in the garage working on a bicycle. He told them that he had spent time with Mo the day before and that he had dropped her off at the apartment at about 8:30 p.m. and left. Despite that, investigators took him to the station where they interrogated him for over 6 hours. Kaitlin had been at the house, but investigators didn't interview her at that time. While Colin was interrogated, he described his relationship with both Kaitlin and Mo. He told investigators that he had had a week-long intimate relationship with Mo and they had been friends ever since, and that he had an on-again, off-again relationship with Kaitlin that was sometimes rocky. He described Kaitlin as being overly attached to him even during times they weren't together, though he did try to minimize how possessive she was. Even though Colin was not entirely cooperative in a sense that he was a little hot-headed and passive-aggressive with the detectives, it soon became clear that they should be looking at someone else as a suspect. When detectives showed Colin the image of the Jeep that had been driving near the apartment at the time of the murder, Colin admitted that it was Caitlin's vehicle, and then he said, quote, "I knew I shouldn't have bought that gun." Now, the reason that Kaitlin couldn't buy her own gun was because she had a warrant out for her arrest. In 2018, Kaitlin had gotten a Botox treatment and refused to pay the $650 bill. An employee at Aesthetica Med Spa in Westlake, Texas, said Kaitlin tried to pay but her credit card was maxed out. She told the cashier she would get another card from her car but never returned. They reported the incident and a warrant was issued for her arrest for misdemeanor theft of service. That gave authorities reason to pick up Kaitlin and hold her for questioning. When news of the murder went public, 2 women who were friends of Kaitlin Armstrong called the police with some disturbing news. Both women, who would later testify against their friend in court, described how Kaitlin had told both of them she wanted to kill Mo Wilson. In the fall of 2021, Kaitlin told her friend Nicole Mertz that she and Colin had broken up. When Nicole asked what she would do if Colin started dating someone else, Kaitlin responded, quote, "I would kill her." At a post-race party in January of 2022, Kaitlin had seen Mo, and when she was venting to friend Jacqueline Chastain about the woman's relationship with Colin, she said she wanted to fucking kill her. When authorities searched Colin and Caitlin's house, they found both the Springfield and the Sig Sauer pistols as well as 2 boxes of ammunition. There was no ammunition missing from either box, and Colin said he had never fired either gun. But Kaitlin and her sister had taken the gun to the range and shot them multiple times, and the manager of that range said that Kaitlin purchased a box of ammunition from him. That ammunition was the same type that Mo was shot with. Kaitlin was initially under arrest for the prior theft, and when a detective started questioning her, it was clear she didn't give a shit about the Botox. The detective started asking her about Mo Wilson. At that point, Kaitlin asked if she needed a lawyer, but it never got past that because the detective was notified that the warrant for Caitlin's arrest was not valid because her birth date was incorrect. So technically, Kaitlin was free to go, and the detective made that very clear, but she did say she wanted to ask her some questions about the murder of Mo. Kaitlin did continue to answer questions, but kept saying she wanted to leave, which the detective repeatedly told her she could. But Kaitlin stayed. She claimed that she had no idea what happened to Mo and that she didn't know that Colin had been with her that day. When she was asked why her Jeep was seen in the area, she simply said, quote, "I don't know." She had absolutely no explanation. During that time, investigators searched Caitlin's vehicle, took DNA samples, and submitted the guns for ballistic testing. It turned out that the Sig Sauer pistol that belonged to Kaitlin was a match for the bullets that killed Mo. Caitlin's cell phone records showed that she had viewed pictures of Mo on social media as well as tracked her location on an app called Strava. Strava is a fitness app that allows people to share their fitness progress, and it includes a location data for the user. Analysts were also able to recover a deleted note from Caitlin's phone that contained the address of the apartment where Mo was staying. Caitlin's Jeep had GPS, which showed her movements around the apartment on the evening of May 11th. After Kaitlin finally left the police station, she went home and both her and Colin stayed together that evening. Kaitlin told Colin that her Jeep was seen around the apartment because she was seeing an energy healer in that area. Obviously, nobody wants to believe their partner is a murderer, so it seems as though Colin continued to see Kaitlin through rose-colored glasses. The following day, he went to Lockhart, about 40 minutes south of Austin, where his mobile home refurbishing business was. Kaitlin was supposed to meet him there, but she never showed up. When he got home, he found a note that she had left saying that she had tried to drive out there but smelled gas in the car. There was no other explanation of her whereabouts. She was just gone. What she had really done that day was to sell her Jeep and flee the area. On May 13th, Kaitlin sold her vehicle to a CarMax dealership in Austin for $12,200 and then flew to New York. Her younger sister, Christine, lived there on some kind of compound called Camp Haven. It was an extremely remote wellness commune that was run by a company called Haven for Humanity. On May 17, 2022, an arrest warrant was issued for Kaitlin Armstrong for the murder of Mo Wilson. Authorities found out that Kaitlin had flown to New York and eventually learned that she had stayed at Camp Haven. U.S. Marshals arrived at the commune and questioned her sister Christine, but by that time, Kaitlin had left and they weren't sure where she had gone. There had been no outgoing flights in her name, but eventually they learned that there had been a ticket purchased in her sister's name that took her from New York to Costa Rica. It looked as though Kaitlin had visited her sister in order to steal her passport. On May 25th, a federal warrant was issued for Kaitlin for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. After getting to Costa Rica, Kaitlin cut her hair and dyed it dark. Then she paid $7,000 for plastic surgery. On June 23rd, she had a chin lift and a nose job, which is apparent in a side-by-side picture. 2 U.S. Marshals traveled to Costa Rica to look for Kaitlin, but they weren't successful. They heard stories about her, sometimes going by Beth, sometimes going by Allison, but they were never able to pin her exact location down. They eventually whittled down their search to a place called Santa Teresa, which is a place known for its many yoga retreats. After they heard that someone matching her description had been seen taking yoga classes, they tried to trick her into coming to them. They placed an ad online claiming to be a local hostel looking for a yoga instructor. Needing money to sustain herself, Kaitlin responded to the ad and made an appointment to meet for an interview. Local authorities arrested her, and at the time she told them her name was Ari Martin. When the U.S. Marshal showed up to take custody, he asked what her real name was, and she admitted that it was Kaitlin. Also, when the Marshal asked her why she had a bandage on her nose, which was due to the plastic surgery, she told him that it was because she had been in a surfing accident. All of these details would be very important when it came time for her trial. While awaiting trial, Kaitlin began working out vigorously. She had put in a medical request asking not to have her legs restrained. Then she began complaining about an injury in order to be transported to a doctor's office outside of the prison. After the appointment, as 2 guards were escorting her back to the vehicle, Kaitlin broke free and ran. She attempted to scale a 6-foot fence, but 1 guard caught her and pulled her, knocking them both to the ground. Kaitlin got back up and continued running. She pulled off her jail uniform pants, revealing thermal pants underneath, likely an attempt to make herself look less like a prison inmate. She was also able to release one of her hands from the cuffs. A later search of her cell would reveal she had some small pieces of metal that would work to pick the cuffs. She was eventually caught and returned to the prison. Now all that did was make Kaitlin look even more guilty, which would make her defense at trial completely ridiculous. Her trial started on October 30th, where the defense stated that there was no evidence that Kaitlin had committed the murder and that she hadn't fled Austin. She had merely taken a trip to Costa Rica because she liked to travel. Over the course of the trial, over 40 witnesses testified for the state. Friends of Kaitlin, law enforcement officers, forensic technicians, the medical examiner, Colin Strickland, and Kaitlin Cash, Mo's friend who lived in the apartment where she was killed. The medical examiner stated that Mo had died from multiple gunshots, 2 shots to the head and 1 to the heart. Based on the Ring doorbell camera that caught Mo's screams and the 3 gunshots, they had an exact time for the shooting, and during that time, Caitlin's digital footprint put her at the scene. Her vehicle was seen on multiple surveillance cameras, and her vehicle data matched that. Kaitlin had turned off her cell phone, but her Jeep's infotainment system had GPS, and that data was extracted to show her not only in the area, like if she, say, went to an energy healer. It showed that she was specifically staking out the apartment that Mo was staying in. She drove around for at least an hour, passing the apartment multiple times. Then the Jeep parked in an alley directly behind the apartment and was turned off at 8:40 p.m. The Jeep was started at 9:17 p.m. and drove directly to the home she shared with Colin. Forensic analysts showed the deleted note with the address of the apartment and all the social media activity that showed Kaitlin was stalking Mo. The ballistics expert showed that the bullets that killed Mo had been fired from Caitlin's gun and that she had purchased the ammunition at the firing range. DNA experts testified that Caitlin's DNA had been found on the handlebars and seat of Mo's bike that had been ridden from the apartment just down the alley to where the Jeep had been parked, then tossed in the bushes. The evidence against Kaitlin being the killer was already very strong, but then Kaitlin ran. The jury was told how, the day after being interviewed about the murder, she sold her Jeep to a local CarMax dealership. But there was another detail there that people didn't know. When the dealership cut the check for $12,200, she asked them to make it payable to her sister, Kaitlin Armstrong. She clearly didn't want anyone to know that she was selling her vehicle, but this also makes it clear that she didn't really know what she was doing. I mean, her car would have been registered in her name and she would have had to sign the title. There would have been records of her doing that. Then it seems like she realized that she didn't know how to cash the check with it in her sister's name, so she must have signed the check over to herself and then cashed it. Then Kaitlin flew to New York and went to Camp Haven, where her sister and her husband lived. But Kaitlin was not just there for a friendly visit with her sister. No, she wanted to steal her passport, which she did and then used it to fly to Costa Rica. Once there, she moved around a lot, she cut and dyed her hair, and she got plastic surgery to change her face. In the hostel where she was staying, investigators found a receipt for $6,350 for a rhinoplasty which she received under the name Allison Page. Another piece of information uncovered about Kaitlin's time in Costa Rica was her internet search history of herself, Mo Wilson, and if pineapples can remove fingerprints. She was keeping up on the investigation against her and trying to see if the acid in pineapple could be used to remove her fingerprints. More evidence that she was trying to hide her identity. And no, pineapples can't remove your fingerprints, just in case you were wondering. Then, of course, once she was caught and brought back to the US, she attempted to escape prison before her trial. According to the defense, Kaitlin was innocent. They claimed that the police immediately focused on Kaitlin and never looked at any other person as a suspect. Except they had. They immediately considered Colin a suspect and brought him to the station where they questioned him for 6.5 hours. During that time, Kaitlin was not a suspect at all. It was during that interview that they learned that it was Caitlin's Jeep that was seen in the video and she also became a suspect. Then, while beginning to look at Kaitlin as a suspect, investigators also looked into where Colin had been during the time of the murder. His cell phone GPS showed that he had left immediately after dropping Mo off at the apartment and that he wasn't in the area at the time of the murder. So investigators didn't immediately focus on Kaitlin and the evidence led them to her. The defense argued that nobody had actually seen Kaitlin driving the Jeep and it was the GPS from the Jeep and not her phone that was at the location. But that was because she had turned her phone off, coincidentally for the hours around when she was stalking Colin and Mo and then murdering Mo. She likely thought turning her phone off would keep her location a secret, not realizing her vehicle was also recording that information. Conveniently, her phone was turned back on right when she got back home, where Colin saw her return in her Jeep. Nobody else was ever known to drive her vehicle, and it couldn't have been Colin because he was being tracked somewhere else at the time. It was definitely Colin with his phone because he had gotten and returned messages about things that no one else would have known during that time. Someone else would have had to steal Caitlin's Jeep and then return it without her knowing, which isn't possible because Kaitlin admitted to Colin that she was in the area to visit an energy healer. She openly admitted to having been driving her Jeep in that area when Colin asked about it, and no energy healer was ever found in that area who could corroborate her story. The defense argued that Caitlin's DNA could have gotten on Mo's bike through Colin. Caitlin's DNA had gotten onto Colin and then he rode Mo's bike and he transferred Caitlin's DNA onto the bike at that time. But Colin's DNA wasn't found anywhere on the bike. So Colin rode the bike and got Caitlin's DNA on it, but not his own? It seemed very unlikely. Then, of course, the defense claimed that Kaitlin hadn't fled the area. She simply took a trip because she liked to travel. He claimed that Kaitlin would have had no way of knowing that a warrant was going to be issued against her, but she didn't need to know about the warrant. It was literally the day after she had been questioned about her involvement in a murder. She hadn't said anything about planning a trip to her boyfriend who she lived with. The defense is expecting people to believe that a woman she disliked was murdered, and then a few days later she just decided to go on a trip without telling anyone about it, simply vanishing from her life. She sold her vehicle before leaving and then stole her sister's passport in order to leave the country under a fake name. Then changed her appearance and looked for information about removing fingerprints, all while using fake names for everything. You know, normal behavior for anyone just taking an innocent trip. Eventually the narrative changed and the defense claimed that Kaitlin had fled the area and it was because she believed that Colin had killed Mo and that he was going to kill her too. You're telling me that Kaitlin had stolen her sister's passport and left the country because she thought Colin was on some sort of killing spree? And then, even after leaving the country, she changed her appearance because she thought Colin was going to track her down in Costa Rica and kill her? I can't even make this stuff up. And I get it, the defense didn't have a lot to work with. The evidence against Kaitlin, despite being mostly circumstantial, was extremely damning. Her vehicle, the DNA, and the ballistics proved that there was no way that anyone else could have committed the crime. The defense was left grasping for straws. During closing arguments, the prosecutor explained that all of the circumstantial evidence put together proved that Kaitlin had murdered Mo. If she hadn't, then it would have been a major coincidence that the woman she was jealous of had been shot with her gun, and that person had also driven her Jeep around the apartment for an hour and left her DNA at the scene. And that's before Kaitlin fled the country and changed her appearance. On November 16, 2023, Kaitlin Armstrong was found guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to 90 years in prison with parole eligibility after 30 years. I do want to say that many people don't have positive opinions about Colin, which I get. Despite him claiming that he and Mo were just friends after their short, intimate relationship, it seemed as if that might not have been true, or at least Mo wasn't fully aware of that. His behavior regarding his relationships with both Kaitlin and Mo were a bit shady, and he seemed to be playing with both of their emotions. On top of that, he was standoffish with the authorities during the investigation and even the trial. He even assaulted a photographer outside of the courthouse. None of that means he was involved in the murder, though. He is someone who's a bit self-centered, and his behavior is childish when he's put in a stressful situation. So, though I believe he could have been a better person starting way before the murder took place, I don't think there's any validity in people's claims that he was involved in Mo's murder. He never seemed to show any interest in getting rid of Mo in favor of Kaitlin. Kaitlin Armstrong believed that murder was the best way to protect her relationship with her boyfriend. Her paranoia and jealousy got the better of her, and she ended a young life with a promising future over a man. Fortunately, this monster was caught and will be behind bars for a very long time. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave us a comment. You can check out our other show, Somewhere Sinister, on YouTube or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.